Welcome back to the Simply Lily podcast. If you're new here, come on in and get comfortable. And if you've been walking this journey with me, listen, you already know this is a safe space. Now, listen, today's conversation, it's one of those, it sounds simple, but why is this so hard kind of topics. It's something that I've actually been doing for so many years, but it's one of those things where sooner or later somebody discovers it and then put it into a copyright, if that's the right terminology. But it's exactly what needed to be probably put into writing because it has helped so many people. So we're talking about the let them theory. Yeah, let them. Let them do what they want. Let them think what they want. Let them show you who you are. It sounds peaceful, right? Listen, until it's your life, until it's your people, until it's your emotions. So today we're going to get into it, not just from a just let it go place, but from a real life midlife, because that's where we're trying to go through. We're trying to go through where we're at right now in life. Boundary reset. I'm still working on this two place because let me be clear. I am not above this conversation. I'm actually in it. So let's get started. So let's get into the whole thing about let them, what it actually means, and not just what it means, but what it doesn't mean. So let's start here because let them has been floating around everywhere, like I said. And some people hear it and think, oh, so I just don't care anymore. No, that's not it. Let them is not about becoming cold. It's not about accepting disrespect. It's not about shrinking your needs. It's actually about releasing the control. And I, as a single mom, remember my kids coming up to me and they were worried about what somebody was saying. And I even worked with, somebody said something about me. And I remember I was like, I don't care. I said, they don't pay my bills. I said, let them do whatever they want. Let them say whatever they want. As long as you're not the one that's doing it, don't worry about it. And that was me many, many, many years ago. And it's something that I've always said, let them say whatever they want. And I've always, if you listen back on some of my podcasts and me being a single mom back in the 80s and 90s, um, there was things that used to be said. And I used to be like, I don't care. I said, let them say whatever they want because I know what I'm doing. I know the choices that I'm making. And all we need to worry about is ourselves. And it's kind of the same perception, but at the same time, it's still the same concept, if that makes any sense. Um, when we talk about let them, it is about releasing the control. And ooh, that right there, that's the part that will humble you because a lot of us, especially in this season of life, we've been used to managing everything. And I own that. And I can actually attest to that. We been used to managing people, outcomes, emotions, situations. We fix, we adjust, we anticipate, we try to keep things together. So when you hear let them, it feels like, wait, you don't mean I don't step in, I don't explain, or I don't correct it. Exactly. Because let's be honest, let's keep it real now. Someone doesn't text you back, the old version of us is we're overthinking. Did I say something? Are they okay? Let me check. Should I double text? Maybe I need to check in. But the new version on how we look at things and trying and still learning is just like let them not respond. And instead of spiraling, we're just kind of like, we're standing still because you direct that energy back to yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, you might still think like that. You might still feel, a little something because we are human. But don't chase clarity that somebody's not offering. This is something that I've learned in the last couple of years. It's like almost like sometimes you can't always fix what's broke. But where we're at now in our midlife, we have the right to have a boundary reset. So let's talk about where this hits the hardest, which is midlife. Because if you think about it, this is the season where we start waking up and realizing I've been doing too much. And respectfully, I've kind of been thinking and really reflecting. I have been doing a lot. I've done a lot and sometimes overextended myself, even within myself and my children and with others, because that's the person that I am, always trying to make things right or fix things. I've either done too much explaining or too much overgiving or too much holding space for people who don't actually hold space for us. And now, well, I think we're tired. I'm tired. But this is the biggest thing. We're just not tired. We're also aware. And that awareness, that's what changes everything. So now we're trying to reset boundaries. And there's a very big misconception in the definition of boundaries, especially where we're at in our life. It's something where we teach our children boundaries, but we've never really told them what the boundaries were for. And we carry that all into our lives. But now where we're at, we have to set boundaries because if we don't, we're always going to find ourselves backpedaling to what we're trying to get away from. And without becoming someone we don't recognize. See, that's the balance because we don't want to be bitter, but we also don't want to be available for everything anymore. And that's where we begin to get that alignment. And I've spoken often about you need to have that alignment mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I'm going to take it into another direction here. Let's talk about let them in a relationships perspective. Let's go there. Relationships, friendships, family, dating. This is where let them will test you the most. And I'm saying this, I'm saying this from experience because I've been really getting into the let them because it's not the, you know what, I don't even care anymore. No, it's not that I don't care. It's just that I'm not going to give you something a part of my energy that is now at peace. And I'm not going to let you interrupt that because, and I keep saying, I have more days behind me than I do ahead of me. And I'm not going to continue to have it with all this stuff that people still think your mindset or that you're just that same person still doing whatever. You know, I've come to the realization where just let them misunderstand you. Let them not show up or let them be inconsistent. Because here's the truth when you stop interfering, you start seeing clearly. I'm going to say that again. When you stop interfering, that's when you start seeing clearly. And clarity, believe it or not, it's uncomfortable because now you can't make excuses for people anymore. I got a scripture for you. I always put my scripture in because that is very applicable to life. Let's ground this for a second. In Matthew 5, verse 37, it says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Simple, period, clear, and honest. No over explaining, no overextending. And if we're keeping it real, some of us have been saying yes when everything in us was screaming no. Let them actually helps you honor that. It doesn't always have to be where it's a negative thing where you're letting them. You have to understand that it's something where we're just actually putting it all down and it's for you. And that's where we're at. It's for us. We need to be in a space where we continue with our intentionality and we continue trying to finish off where we're at in life and in a good way without the all that loudness. So this is what maybe some of y'all thinking right now. Okay, Lily, so that does it even actually work? Let's talk about the real question. Does it actually work? Because it sounds good in theory, but what is it like when you put it into practice? Well, honestly, it can feel lonely and it can feel like you're losing people, like you're stepping back and nobody's stepping forward. And that's kind of where the doubt creeps in. Like, am I doing too much or am I being distant? Like, is this even worth all of this? And I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable because it's working. You're breaking patterns and how can I put it? You're no longer overcompensating. You're no longer filling in the gaps for other people. And that changes the dynamics. And when you start realizing that, it's not like you're not you're not losing anything, you're gaining. And that's where you have to really come out and think about it. And but when you're thinking about it and when you feel this loss, how are you feeling without all that other stuff? Whether it's nonsense, whether it's foolishness, whether it's things you just don't want to deal with, or whether it's things that you've put to rest in your mind and things that you are no longer having live in your mind rent free. Like we are going to have to lose something to gain something. But the funny truth about it is, I just want to say this. Can we laugh for a second? Because let them, it sounds real calm. Let them until somebody tests it. Now, you're sitting here like, okay, I'm letting them, but I don't like it. Okay, you're quiet, but your mind is loud. Now, think about this. Really think about this. You didn't respond, but you definitely drafted a response in your head. See, growth is funny like that. You don't become unbothered overnight. Child, let me tell you something. It has taken me years to learn how to not be bothered. Because the first thing is you become aware. And awareness, guess what? It's process. And it does take time. Because sometimes we feel that if we're not responding, we're failing or we're not completing something, but that's not how it works. But this is the big thing. So, how do we actually apply this? Because this is like an everyday application in real life. It's not perfectly, but intentionally. You see, when someone cancels you on the last minute, let them. But also, this is what I've learned. You need to make a mental note. When someone only shows up when it's convenient, let them. But don't rearrange your life for that. You see, when someone doesn't reciprocate your effort, let them and redirect that energy. You see, it's not about punishment. And I'm going to go back to it. It's about the alignment. and how it's going to make you feel better about that. But one thing, whatever it is you're going to do, and when you're trying to do things, and I've spoken about this when we were talking about the spiritual hygiene, you have to start from within. When you're doing or you're trying to practice this, let them, you have to understand that you have to do the internal work because here's the deeper layer. This is what I've learned. This is what I've been practicing, and I've been doing a lot of reading about it because it has been working for me. Have I been a little off in, well, man, maybe I shouldn't have did that. Maybe I shouldn't have really reacted like with that. Just let it go. But then I finally realized that when other things started happening similarly to that, that I said, just let it go, just let them. It's all making sense. See, let them is not just about other people. You hear me? It's not about other people. It's about you. Can you sit with the discomfort without reacting? This is what I'm talking about, what I was feeling. And can you accept people as they are without trying to change them? You see, some people have a problem, and I could be saying, let me speak from personal experiences where some people are not okay with you changing. It makes them uncomfortable. Some people like to be your little savior or the one who's always telling you how to fix your life. But when you start to fix your life and you start to change things, it makes some people uncomfortable. But you know what? You can choose yourself without guilt. And that's where the real work actually comes in. Because when it starts to work, you're going to probably at one point say, when you start seeing all the changes, is it worth it? So let's answer it honestly. Is it worth the effort? Yes, because not because it makes life easier, but because it makes life clearer. Life is never going to be easier because life is what you make of it. And the clarity is going to let you move forward, but in a different way. You see, for you see people for who they are. You stop overextending, you protect your energy, but most importantly, you start showing up for yourself differently. And that's what this whole thing is about, this let them. It's about yourself so that you can see things in a different light and you're more clear. Because remember, you're not alone in this. And if this feels new, if it feels uncomfortable, if if you're second guessing yourself, I need you to hear me real quick. Because I always keep it real. You're not alone in this. And it's not something that we've learned. It's not something that were brought up with, but it's something that, believe it or not, it's always been there. Maybe it's just to let it go or I don't need to deal with this. But now we're putting it into a different perspective. Now we're all learning how to let go without becoming detached. We're also learning to set the boundaries without feeling guilty and choose peace without explaining it. Because if you start explaining yourself, this is my perception of it. If you start explaining yourself, you're not letting certain things go. You're still holding on to it in a way where you're trying to prove your peace. And at this point, you don't need to prove anything to anyone because this is a continuation of our journey, not perfection. I learned that. It's never going to be perfect, but it's all about progress. We are all a work in progress. So, as as you move through your week, I want you to try it. Not perfectly, again, just intentionally. Let them. And then ask yourself, what am I choosing for me? That has been the question. That's been the $1,000,000 question that Lili has been asking herself, me. What am I choosing for me? Because that's where the power is. So listen, everyone, that's what I'm going to leave you with this week. And I want to thank you for sitting with me again, for being real with yourself, for doing the work even when it's uncomfortable. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need this reminder. And as always, listen, I'm right here with you. We're on the same journey. We're trying to do the same. We're trying to make life better. Not easier, better. And we're trying to learn. And I will always say this because this is what I was told. It's not where you start. It's how you end. So listen, everyone. This is simply Lili reminding you, you don't have to control everything to finally feel at peace. Till the next episode, y'all, take care.